Boom.
Make sure you turn off your volumes. Hello, everybody. Hello. Let me do some things here. Joanna sat down literally like
2 seconds ago.
not even 2 seconds ago. She
One?
sat, as she was sitting down, I hit
Nick.
the button because you know how I am. I like to be punctual.
You are.
And that's just the way I roll here. So, yeah, just finishing up the buttons. Yeah, so glad you're here. Thanks for being here, hanging out with us tonight. We've got all kinds of cool stuff. Yeah, Rofish, you know what time it is. It's prime time with your boy Jason and
No.
no.
Just
yeah.
and no.
Your boy Jason and no is here. Shirley, thank you so much for the little dancing guy. Appreciate it right from the start. That's always a nice thing to see right when you're live stream waking up.
Baby
So-
Lemon with pom-poms in his hands cheerleading.
That's exactly what it was.
Those descriptions are hilarious.
I know they are. They
They're
are
so
hilarious
funny.
and they're awesome. Happy Valentine's Day.
That's right.
Yep.
Happy V-Day
Tomorrow
Eve.
is Valentine's Day. What's everybody doing? So share in the chat if you got something going on for Valentine's Day, even if it's
Going
I'm
to a
gonna
fish
stay at
store.
home and I'm going to watch TV. That's a perfectly legitimate thing to do on Valentine's Day.
Heck yeah.
So, but we'll all just kind of celebrate it tonight. How about that? How about tonight is, well, it is. It's Valentine's Day Eve, and we're all here, and that's all that matters. So I'm happy you're here. We have got stuff going on this fine evening. We do have a topic. We're going to talk about when to cover your aquariums and when you may not want to. I have show and tell over
fun-
there, so at some point right over there leaning up against the table, don't knock that over, but I'm going to ask for the show and tell, okay?
Oh, I see it.
So I'm going to need that for everybody to, be able to see what's going on.
Okay.
So let's talk a little bit about, the usual thing, videos, where we're going to be, and then we're going to get into the subject. We're going to have plenty of time to answer your questions tonight because this is not a very, very long subject, so I wanted to make sure we left some time in there. And we do have a giveaway. So we do, in fact, have a
Yippee.
giveaway a little bit later, which means you're going to need to do your thing over there. Mindy says, I'm in a relationship with my tanks at getting a new fish and plant. Nice.
Oh.
That is very
Fun.
cool. Absolutely it is. Okay, so videos for this week. We had on Sunday on Primetime Aquatics, I talked about ways in which your fish may be lacking oxygen, ways to know whether your fish are lacking oxygen and what to do about it. So if you haven't seen that video on Sunday, I think that is something that would appeal to everybody, not just beginners or not just advanced people, but definitely something to consider. So Sunday's video, ways to know whether or not your fish are getting enough oxygen or they're low on oxygen. On Sunday on Container Joy, you also did a what?
I did a garden center tour of not necessarily spring plants, but the spring decor is in, and there are like some crazy themes out there. It was so much fun. I was like literally in heaven.
Yep, do want to say thank you to everybody who's coming over from the KG Tropicals live stream. As I always say, if you haven't checked that out, it comes on right before us, KG Tropicals live stream. They do an awesome job. Very, very entertaining, very information-packed, lots of cool segments. It's awesome. Monday on the Tank Talk podcast. So last week that John was sick, so he didn't get to do his live stream last week. And he texted me, he's like, dude, man, I don't have it. I'm hurting. Can you deal with or can you do the interview that we had? And we had a really good one, so I'm actually really sad that he didn't get to be there. I know he is too, but on the Tank Talk podcast, I interviewed Stefan Tanner. If you don't know who that is, he is the owner of Amazonas Magazine. And so for those of you who have watched the channel for a while, especially the live streams, you know that we think very, very highly of Amazonas Magazine. It is one of my all-time favorite magazines of any genre. It is one of the highest quality magazines you'll ever see. And to be able to talk with him for an hour about the magazine itself and some of the rare fish that he's gotten to basically publish over the last, 10, 12 years was a lot of fun. So if you haven't seen that on the Tank Talk podcast, that was a really good one. Yesterday on the Small Scape, what was your video?
totally blanked out there. Nano fish that you should think twice about. There's a little group of what I call stinkers.
Okay. So if you haven't seen that, worth checking out. And then, of course, today we had a prime timer video where I talked about some ideas about the fish room. And Sunday, I've got a species profile for you that I hope you're really going to like. It's a little bit different. Now, before we get into where we're going to be, you've done a couple things. I'm assuming you want to mention the couple things that happened to you today and yesterday. So what happened there?
On the small scape, we hit 50,000 subs. 50,000 small scapers.
Very cool.
Exciting. And then Container Joy, a little channel, it hit 1,000.
Today.
Yeah,
so 50,000
today.
yesterday on the small scape and 1,000 today.
Nice even numbers.
Yeah.
I just love even numbers.
That's pretty darn cool.
Yeah.
So congratulations there.
Thank you.
Very awesome.
Thank you.
Can you make sure that Finsanity, thank you very much for the super chat. We are absolutely going to answer that question, but can you make a note, screenshot that so we can answer it when we get to the Q&A part, because I will promise you I will get that answered. Thank you very much. Okay, where we're going to be. So we are going to be at both the Greater Chicago Cichlid Association swap in Northbrook, Illinois on the 23rd. That is a week from Sunday. We will be at the Quad City swap same day in Davenport. I will be at the Quad City. Joanna will be at the GCCA swap, both of them on the 23rd of Sunday. So website is usually updated for pre-orders about 4 or 5 days before the swaps. If you are interested, we'll have a lot of cool fish. Green water is after that, but that's not until all the way until March 15th. It's a Saturday, Greenwater, Tinley Park. And then something I'm really excited about, and I actually, watch this. This is going to be so cool. Are you ready? I have information.
Oh, goody.
So the Minnesota Aquarium Society Expo, that is going to be coming up on March the 22nd. It is a Saturday. It's an all-day thing. And I don't know if I knew this, but it is apparently free to get in. And it's from 9 to 6.
Wow.
It's going to be, if you go to the website, you're going to see a lot more information. I probably should have linked it down in the description, but I forgot. I'll try to do that after the stream if I can remember to do that. But go to just type in Google Minnesota Aquarium Society Expo, and it gives you all the information about what's going on. It's a swap. There's presentations. There's going to be bowl shows and competitions and all kinds of stuff. I think it's going to be very, very cool. We're looking forward to it. Never been to it before, but it's held in high regard. So worth checking out. Now, I do want to say thank you so much, Budget Bonsai, for the super chat. Congrats on the 50/1. 50,
Thank
50K,
you.
1K. Thank you very much. Really
Thank
appreciate that. Thank you. Let's see what else we got going on here. So those are the where we're going to be's. Now, before we get into the topic, I want to answer Finsanity's question, because otherwise there's a chance I'll just be like, boom, I'll forget. I don't want to do that.
Okay.
So Jason, need your expertise. In my snail only tanks, 40 breeders, bare bottom, weekly water changes, pretty darn clean. I have micro maggot looking like organism. I'm lost. And no one has an idea. Local fish store. Yeah, it's not the best. Okay, so maggot looking organism. I wonder if it's some kind of like a scud, or it's not planaria with a triangular shaped head. So, because some of those can get pretty big. Either way, you've got something in there that is undesirable, I would say. Now, I don't know how to get rid of it, unfortunately, because I'm not quite sure what it is. Is it harming your snails? Are you noticing that they're acting weird? Are you noticing that your breeding is not what it used to be? Obviously, again, the fact that it's bare bottom, and you said weekly water changes, maybe it's going to take, at least for a little while, slightly more, not necessarily big water changes, but just go through with a gravel vac and get everything off the surface, because the snails will take care of pretty much anything connected to the surfaces of the glass, and then the quick gravel vacs will take up any other types of detritus. That's what I would do to hopefully take care of it. But how to treat it, I don't know, because I don't know what that is. Okay, so hold on a second here. All the chat just got stuck, which is totally uncool, man. Let me go to the other one.
No,
Dennis, thank you very much for gifting 5 new prime timer experience. Really appreciate it. Thank you for
nice.
doing that. That's awesome. What were you going to say?
just so you know, Noelle is at her youngest high school basketball game. So she's just listening in and kind of popping in here and there,
Hey.
just so you know.
Very cool. So if we hear, yeah!
Go team, go!
Yeah, through the chat, we're going to know why. Okay, so tonight's topic is to cover or not to cover your aquariums. I'm actually going to start out, we're going to start out, I think, talking about why you may not want to cover your aquariums. Can we start there?
Sure.
Would that be good?
Yeah.
We have 5 tanks behind us in the gallery. 4 of the 5 are not covered in any way, shape, or form. The only one that is covered is the Mbuna tank right over here to my left, your right, if you're looking at the screen. So, question is, why do we not, generally speaking, cover a tank?
For me, number one reason is for hardscaping, when you want the hardscaping popping out of the water. That's just for me.
Okay. And I think that's really the only reason why, right? So when we have aquariums that are not covered in our fish room, and basically, like I said, there's 4 out of the 5 here, but on the other side, I'm trying to go like mentally in my brain. Yeah. Every single tank is covered except for your 12 long, that quarantine tank, just because I haven't made a lid for it.
Yeah.
But every other tank on the other side is covered. So there are times when you have an aquarium and maybe you don't want to put a lid on it or a cover on it, or you can't, just based on the aquascape. So if you look behind us in the gallery, if you can see, this tank right behind us here, the low boy's got some pretty big pieces of Cerio stone sticking out the top. The 2 125s have some driftwood that's sticking out the top, and the 125 behind Joanna's head has some anubias also growing out of the top of that aquarium. The barb tank over there by Joanna's head on the other side has also got some driftwood sticking out of the top of the tank. Now, obviously, there's ways to get around that. I could have put all that stuff together, not the rock, but anytime there's wood sticking out the top, I could have just sawed it right off, right? Just right at the water line. And as long as it's right at the water line or slightly above and a lid can still fit, it's really not, at least what you're seeing in the aquarium, isn't going to look bad, because it's just going to extend to the surface and that's going to be it. However, there's a lot of time where maybe you want that hardscape to extend off the surface of the aquarium beyond the water, because then you can do what you do in your 22 long, and that's what?
I missed the first part of that.
So if you're going to have your hardscape that is expanding beyond the surface of the aquarium, there's an added benefit to that with what you're doing around your 22 long. Around the tank. Never mind. So around the tank, you can put plants, you can put other types of hardscape, and you can make it look really natural. So now your aquarium is not just a standalone aquarium, right?
Gives it context.
Yeah.
I like to call it context.
Yeah. So it's kind of nice. It's kind of nice that you can do that, where you can build essentially a hardscape around your aquarium, just kind of have it be part of a natural system or a natural environment, but it's just one part of that natural environment. It's not the entire thing. So kind of pretty cool to be able to do something like that. Other reasons why people may not have a lid: maybe they have an aquarium where it's a really, really odd size and they don't have a lid, they can't find a glass lid for it, and they're like, well, don't have one, just going to have to go without a lid. We're going to talk about how to get around that here in a little bit, but there are ways to deal with that. What else? The money side of it, I mean, especially if you've got a fish room and you're starting to add more and more aquariums, the lids, again, they can be expensive. If you want a glass lid for a 20-gallon tank, you might be spending $20. It's been a little while since we bought fish tank lids, but I think it was pretty close to $20 for a lid for a 20. 10s aren't that much cheaper.
Yep.
I remember we bought lids for your 2.5s even, the glass lids, and those were not necessarily cheap either. So
they add up, especially when we had 10 tanks.
They do. They absolutely add up.
Yes.
So again, most of the time, if you're keeping a tank that doesn't have a lid, it's really about the look and the aquascape.
Did in the gallery or in the studio when we used to have the 4 8.5s, did those come with lids? I don't remember. I don't know if they did.
I would have thought if they did, we would have used them, because I don't recall having aquascapes outside of the aquarium, did we?
Yeah.
Then maybe they did. No, in fact, I think they did. I think they had clips, and maybe we said, well, if we can't cover them all, we're not going to cover them at all. So where those lids went, I have no idea.
Yeah.
So, I mean, yeah, it's, who knows. Scripsky, thank you so much for being a prime timer the last 24 months or 2 years. That is awesome. Thank you. My dad told me to tell you both, you are amazing information sources for newbies like me. Also, I'll have an important question for both of you later. Well,
how
very
exciting.
cool. Thank you. Thank you for being here the last 24 months. I really appreciate that. We really appreciate that. And Shamu has also been a prime timer for 12 months. So that's pretty cool. Thank you for being here the last year. I wish I could have an open top tank, but Dennis and Barb's can be psycho sometimes. They are big time jumpers. I want ballast sharks too, so I definitely need to cover 100%. Yeah, ballast. So it's funny because we're going to talk about that in a second, but some of the jumpers, we can talk about some of the top jumpers because we have lots and lots of experience with fish that absolutely positively love to jump. And when you're bringing in all these fish and you're catching them for swaps and doing all that kind of thing, you learn real fast which ones are going to jump and which ones are not. They're jumping out of the nets, they're jumping out of the tanks, they're jumping out of the catch cups and the buckets and everything else. And it can be an absolute mess.
I have a new one too when we get to that. Like one of the worst ones where I was just like having a really tough time keeping them in the net.
In the net, huh? They were going crazy?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay. All right. All right. JR, thank you very much for the super chat. I just added a 10, that's a lizard tail pleco. Yep. L10A to my tank. Such a cool fish. Thank you for putting them on the fish radar. Only regret buying is buying one. My new Odo replacement. Yeah, we actually have right now, and we'll have them on the website for the Quad City and the GCCA swap. We have the L11A. I kind of think they're the same fish because when I used to get these fish, they came in as L11As. They were red. They were awesome. Look them up if you haven't seen them, the red lizard tail pleco. They also call the catfish, but now they're designated L11A. They look exactly the same to me. I can't tell the difference between them, and they are very, very, very cool fish. Okay, now, why? Why would we want to cover tanks? So, number one, there's really only a couple reasons. Like I said, this isn't going to take long because I think most of you have already figured it out. The couple reasons is humidity is a big thing. I think that is, we're going to start with the thing I think most people overlook the most, especially for those of you who have more than one aquarium and you're starting to get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and especially if you have larger aquariums. I'll tell you, it can be very shocking for some people when you realize just how much humidity can accumulate when you have open-topped aquariums. And even for us, I noticed it right away when we have these 4 aquariums. Again, it's 2 125s, a 75, and this low boy that has a ton of surface area. And here's the crazy thing too. There's a heating vent right there, and that heating vent kind of blows in this side of the room, and that causes even more evaporation on this aquarium. But once we started with these open-top aquariums, we have 2 humidifiers. We have one in the gallery that we usually turn off for the live streams because it would be kind of noisy if it was running. And then we have one in the fish room. And so they are both running quite a bit. It's actually good for us because when they're running, when they put air out, they put out warm air, so it keeps these rooms, because we heat the room. It's one of the reasons why the temperature can be maintained warmer in here, because we have 2 dehumidifiers that are blowing out basically warm air. And they both basically just have a hose that runs right into either a floor drain or one of our wastewater systems, our wastewater system on the other side, and they're constantly running. If that hose ever gets blocked and we have to manually empty those things out, and they're big, there's like a big giant thing, I have to pull those out and dump them each twice a day, once in the morning and once in the evening. So they collect a lot of water, and trust me, if you are keeping a lot of aquariums, get a humidity monitor. We have one on that side of the fish room, and so we always know the temperature, and we also know the humidity level, and we try to, I'm happy if it's right around 50%, right? Low 50s, sometimes in the wintertime it'll creep into the 40s. I certainly don't want it in the upper 50s, 60s or above. I don't want that. If it gets down in the 30s, then we have a really, really dry situation, which can happen in the wintertime. If it's really cold outside and the heater is on constantly, it can get very dry. However, if that thing was kicking in the 60s, the 70s, I mean, you could wind up with mold problems. So definitely think about, first monitor the humidity, see where you're at, and if you need to, get a dehumidifier or make sure your tanks are covered. The more they are covered, the less water is going to evaporate and get into the atmosphere and create humidity. Okay. What else? Next thing. The most obvious, what is that?
To have a lid?
Yeah.
Jumpers.
The jumpers. All fish, almost all fish, have the capability of jumping out of the aquarium. I've seen bettas, I've seen goldfish, I've seen fish, plecos. Believe it or not, more plecos than I care to remember. I've seen crusted up and on the floor. What else?
Oscars.
Yeah, we had an Oscar jump, snails. I mean, a lot of stuff.
Clown killies are the worst.
So clown killies. We had them in a 10-gallon, and I'm not kidding you. There was like this much room between the back of the aquarium and the lid itself.
They find it.
And they found it. They sure did. Some of you had mentioned that, for instance, the rose-line sharks, those are big-time jumpers. For me personally, one of the worst jumpers in our fish room are shell dwellers, especially the multis and the similis and the gold ocellatus. It is, I tell the boys all the time for the swaps, you get your catch cup, don't put a lot of water in there, because the minute you catch them, they're going to just constantly be trying to jump out of the nets. So our 50-gallon low boy on the other side, unfortunately, the way it's constructed is I have to leave about this much space open on the far right-hand side. We have hang-on back filter, and there's a couple other things running in that tank. And they find that little area, and every once in a while, they're like, oh, there's another multi on the floor. And when they are getting caught, oh my gosh, they jump like crazy. Now, you said you had a couple that you wanted to add.
Oh, yes. But Lee asked, didn't you have some expensive featherfin jumpers?
Oh my gosh. And thankfully, we have those back in the fish room, by the way. Those will be on the website, yes. The Furcifer Razivas. Right now, I learned my lesson. I have about 20 or 25 in the fish room going through quarantine. They look marvelous. They have a nice tight-fitting lid because I had them in a 33 long, and I don't remember what happened. There must have just been too much space. Lid didn't go all the way back to the back of the tank, but basically almost all of them jumped. Almost every single one of them. Mm-hmm. And that was a really expensive lesson to learn about those guys.
Okay, are you ready for mine?
I'm ready. Are you ready?
I was transporting from one tank to the other, so I had a little net, and as I was pulling the net out, decided to go on the net, on the outside of the net, crawl all around, and then I had to get them back in the net by turning the net around. Think insect, and then put my hand on the lid and hope that he didn't crawl in my hand, and a mono shrimp.
Oh, yes. I could have told you that. Yeah.
My goodness.
Yep.
Oh,
he
was creeping me out.
Yeah, because they are big. We have some big Amano shrimp. But the worst one, and I just did a YouTube short about this, the bamboo shrimp. Because those bad boys absolutely will not stay in a net. They will crawl, and they'll crawl. Oh, they were crawling on my arms when I first got those things. It was so gross. It was literally like a cockroach just crawling on your arms.
They're cute in the tank when they come out, and then they're in your...
Yeah, but they were not about staying in the net. They were like, I'm going to crawl up your arm and see if I can find some water in your face. I don't know. But yeah, those are really bad. Now, here's the interesting thing. A lot of you, I see melon barbs. Absolutely. Barbs can definitely jump.
Rainbow shiners, Lynn said.
Rainbow shiners can jump. Yeah. Now, but here's the crazy thing, okay? A lot of you know the fish that we have in the galleries. So, rainbow shiners back there. Empire gudgeons back here. In the tank by Joanna's head, that's a barb tank. So we have Odessa barbs, clown barbs. They're fine. So right now, so far. have found none of those fish on the floor. In the 125, now here's the crazy thing. You would think there'd be no way this would work. In that 125, a whole mess load of different types of rainbow fish,
Yeah.
2 giant danios, all the snakeskin barbs, plus the geos. I wouldn't expect them to jump, but they're in there. Clown loaches are in there.
Mm-hmm.
What else is in there? The glass cats.
Oh, yeah.
Never had a fish jump out of that tank. Nano tank. I don't really expect a whole lot in that nano tank. I mean, they're little tiny fish. What? Oh, an ember tetra. They're probably not going to jump. The only fish that has jumped out of that nano tank, can you take a guess? What was in there that jumped? And I found it on the floor.
Pleco?
Good guess. Siamese algae eater.
Oh.
That's another one that is just a crazy, crazy jumper. That is another one. When we catch them, they're like the roseline sharks. You have to make sure that the catch cups are covered, and make sure when you go in there, you're keeping an eye on everything that's going on, because they can go, man. They can really go. Yeah, hatchet fish would be absolutely another one. Congo tetras, they will jump, although I have some Congo tetras now in that 125, and so far so good. So the point is, some of it also depends on what's going on in that aquarium, what the size of the aquarium is, and is there a potential for the fish to be chased around? Because if that happens, there's a higher likelihood that they're going to freak out and maybe be like, hey, the way to escape is up and out.
Or they're just getting the zoomies, they're just zooming
so
around.
A lot of it depends on your setup too, because we have a bunch of fish in these tanks. The only reason why the 75 over by me is covered, that Mbuna tank, is simply because I can, because the scape didn't go beyond the water line. There's nothing special about that tank that was like, oh, I've got to cover this one and not the other ones. So, Beto says, did you get the Odessas from Greg? No, almost every, Greg Sage, no, almost every single fish that we have, I've, at this point in the last, I don't know, a couple of years, we import them. We import quarantine for 4 weeks, and then if they're going to the swaps, they're going to the swaps. But if I want to keep some for myself, I just keep some back. So we've gotten some really, really pretty fish doing that.
And second floor's here.
What's up?
Welcome.
What's going on? I wanted to fix my chat situation here. Hold on a minute. There we go. Okay. Now, one thing I want to do before we get into the Q&A. Show and tell time, because I mentioned that there are sometimes people who don't put lids on tanks because they can't find the right size or they're expensive. I've done a video about this before.
That's drippy.
Oh, I was hoping that would dry by now. But here is some polycarbonate. This is greenhouse siding, believe it or not. And like I said, I've done a couple of videos. I forgot to put it in the description, but this stuff here is 1/4 inch. We use the 5/16. Trust me. If you're ever going to use this for a lid, use 5/16. Do not use this 1/4 inch. It's just a little bit too thin. Now, a few things about this. One, I put an Amazon link in the description if you're interested in this because you want to try it. I love this stuff because, one, it's light, a lot lighter than glass. Two, it doesn't break. So when you're cleaning tanks, you just take this thing off the tank and you just want to flick it and throw it on the floor. It's fine. Nothing's going to happen. You can cut out. So this is actually where a light is on a rimless tank. So we got a cutout here, a cutout here. We have a little space here for the hose for when we are doing, let me move this stuff out of the way here so I can see what I'm doing. We have a little space for a hose right here and a heater cord. So you can cut this however you want. And again, this is for a bow front. And so I cut it to fit the shape of the tank itself. And it's really easy to do. You could, with the thinner stuff, the 1/4 inch, it's very easy to use scissors, although even the 5/16 is also, you can use scissors with that. Nice, like hardy pair, not like a cheap pair. You can use a razor blade. I like sometimes to use like a little jigsaw. It's just easy, especially if I'm cutting multiples out. But this stuff is great. Couple things I would do that I didn't do for this one. The ends here have these openings. You can take some silicone, or they actually sell like edges for this greenhouse siding where you can just place it over there. Yeah, so you don't get water inside of here, because that's what you're seeing here. Like this discoloration is actually, it's not on the plastic, or this right here, it's actually in it. So there's ways to fix that, but it's definitely cheap. cheaper than usually buying glass. And it's, like I said, it's light. You can cut it to whatever you want. Like I said, there's a link in the description if you are thinking about maybe you want to do something like that. Trust me, it's the way to go, especially if you're starting to get a lot of aquariums, or you have odd shapes, or maybe you've got a hex tank or a cylinder tank, and you're like, man, you know what? I don't think I have anything that's going to be able to fit this. If you have a corner tank, something like that, or one of the wave tanks, any of those odd ones, or you just like, hey, I just bought 10 gallons, and if I buy these glass lids, it's gonna be a mess. The nice thing is they ship those polycarbonate sheets. I think it's in 2x4 or 2x6 sheets, so it's like an easy shipping thing. Just order them right off of Amazon. You can cut a whole bunch of lids out of that stuff. Very cool. Okay, so that was my show and tell. Yeah, and then Julian says they're sold in part to make greenhouses. That's absolutely true. And a lot of people ask, hey, if I've got a planted tank, is the light going to get through? Is it going to have an impact on my plants? Have I ever noticed a difference between glass and this stuff? I have noticed no difference in terms of plant growth. I don't know if you have got any points, but it's just that plants seem to grow just fine, whether you got glass tops, no tops, or the polycarbonate tops. So they're designed to allow visible light to go through. It's a greenhouse. So it's good stuff.
It's good stuff.
It is good stuff. Okay.
And you said to cut it, you use, you've used the heavy-duty scissors.
Heavy-duty scissors, absolutely. Razor blades can work. I actually think the heavy-duty scissors are a little bit easier to use. I mean, if you get the cheap dollar store scissors and you start trying to cut down on that, trust me, you're going to snap the handle part if it's made out of plastic. But or you can use like a little tiny saw just to kind of cut through, but it's worth it. I definitely think it's worth it. Okay.
Oh, Beto Great Lakes says I made a pretty elaborate lid for one of my tanks to give space for plants to grow out of the water. Yeah. Yeah,
that
I could see that.
Don asked, does it warp? That stuff does not. We've had the polycarbonate in our fish room now for about a decade. And you got lights, and some of the lights we just rest right on top of the lids. I've never had the stuff. The 1/4 inch will warp over time, especially if it's really, really long. Like we have some of the 1/4 inch stuff on some of the 40 breeders. It just sags. It doesn't really warp, but it sags. The 5/16, that's why I recommend it. Get the 5/16. I'm telling you, it's like night and day. That stuff is basically indestructible. And like I said, I'm looking in the fish room right now. I have some of my lights are just resting right on the rim, which is super, super close to the polycarbonate, and it's fine. Okay, let me see here. Okay, I think we're ready for some Q&A stuff, huh?
Oh, Meyer Doc says, and if you want to hinge things for custom lids, you're looking for piano hinge.
Yeah, you could certainly do that. I don't actually make hinges for it. So if I have, let's say, a 20 gallon, I will just usually cut it into two. So I'll cut the whole thing out so that it fits the 20 gallon completely. And then I will just take my scissors or my little saw or an X-Acto knife and just cut it right down and have two sections, a back section and a front, where I can just remove it. And the other thing that's nice is I will cut little feeding holes in the polycarbonate. And if you've got a lot of aquariums and you're sitting there having to lift lids every time you feed a tank, trust me when I tell you, once you cut a feeding hole in that polycarbonate, you just go pow, 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 pow down the line, it saves all kinds of time. So that's pretty cool too. Lady, thank you very much for the super chat. Can I put a female honey gourami in a 40 with female pearls? Also, do y'all ever bring rainbow shiners to the swaps? So, first question about the 40 breeder, probably. I would probably try it. I mean, the nice thing is with the honey gouramis being so small, you've probably got a backup plan where you can throw a honey gourami in a 10 gallon. I would feel comfortable. 40 breeder is a pretty decent sized tank. Shiners, yeah, we don't have them in right now, but we have. They're usually on a rotation, and I think I had them ordered like 1 or 2 orders ago, and they didn't come in. So sometimes you get stuff, and you order things, and they ship you what they have. So, but that is one I'm going to have to get back into the rotation again because it's been a little while. But yeah, I love the rainbow shiners, and they're so hardy. It's one of those fish. It's almost now that I say this, it won't be, but it's almost a guarantee that when you bring them in, they're going to be like bulletproof fish. Now that I've said that, you watch. The
Way to
next
go.
time, it's going to be,
Way to go.
what happened to the rainbow shiners? Oh, I brought them in and it didn't go well. That happens. I will share with you a sad thing. And some of you know this,
This is
I
awful.
brought in the red tail penguin tetra. I remember I was super excited about it. It's a relatively rare tetra. They were not cheap. And they came in looking pretty decent. And then I noticed I lost 3 or 4, no obvious signs of disease. And then all of a sudden I went down there. They were all gone. All of them. Gone. Now, dead, yes, but gone. So there's some snails in those tanks. And I think they just died. And for the most part, the scavengers in there are like, oh, these are little tiny fish. Let's just chow down on them. So I lost every last red-tailed penguin tetra.
That's horrible.
Was not a fun day.
No, that's horrible.
So that was terrible. Laurel says, do you know any good live fish online retailers? Yep, this guy right here. Flip Aquatics, they do an awesome job of, we're partnered with them. We're sponsored by Flip Aquatics. We are sponsored by them because we've known them for probably the better part of a decade, and we know that they quarantine all their fish for at least 2 weeks. Their shrimp gets 4 weeks. Really going to maximize the likelihood that you get healthy fish.
Leo says, I'm thinking about getting a rope fish. Pretty new to the hobby, so I was curious to hear your thoughts.
Rope fish are big.
Real big.
Big tank. And yeah, they can be a
Does
little
Whip
bit.
have any rope fish?
Yeah, Whip chime in. I'm sure
If Whip's still here.
Yeah, Whip has. But yeah, I haven't kept them, but they're big. They're big fish that require some attention.
Yeah.
Shirley says, not the cherry. No, cherry tetras are fine. Cherry tetras are right over there in a 40 breeder, chilling out with some Bolivian rams, and those fish have so far so good. They look absolutely outstanding. So, yeah, very, very cool. Flip Aquatics is moving. Well, no, Flip Aquatics has a building that they expanded, right?
Yes, but they're kind of moving like to the other side, or
Well,
I think they're actually aren't they moving out of? I have to rewatch that because I didn't catch everything. I was listening part. Aren't they moving out of the one building completely?
and into the one next door.
I thought, or
I'm
across
gonna
the
have-
parking lot because they keep having to go like across the parking lot.
Oh, so they're taking the small building and moving all that stuff into the front building? We've been there a
Think
number
so.
of times, so I'm trying to visualize this.
Yeah.
Flip Aquatics is actually almost 3 separate buildings. So they've got their original building, and then they have a larger square footage, and then they busted out a wall, and they got even more of that. So
Yeah.
if they are moving, I think it's literally across a parking lot. So I don't think it'll be too bad.
Ooh, this is a good question. Are you ready? This is
scared
fun.
me.
Ooh.
Okay.
Ryan Echo said, oh, I'm reading it from there.
Sorry. Hold on.
Go up.
Where?
Go up.
Right here?
Saruman the White. That's a cool name. Okay, Ryan Echo says 55-gallon Solosite tank or 30 rummy nose tetras with hatchets and a pisto.
Well, that is a good question. So first of all, I don't think you can go wrong either way. It really depends on what you want. So the Solosite are some of the cichlids that we have in this 75-gallon over here. And they're really cool because they're 2 different colors. The females are a yellow color. The males get a blue, dark blue, and light blue vertical bars. And really cool fish. That would definitely be a species-only tank. You'd probably want to do, I don't know, maybe 3 to 4 males and probably 10 females. It would look absolutely stunning. Or you go a completely different route and you do the 30 rummy nose tetras with hatchets and a pisto.
Right.
If you were just doing those 3 fish, I think you could go probably 50 of the rummy nose, like legit 50, because they're not very active. And I'm not saying that in a bad way. I'm just saying it's not a fish that's going to be darting across the tank back and forth. So if that were the only 3 fish I was keeping, I would probably do closer to 50 rummy nose tetras, at least 8 to 10 hatchets, and then you could do a couple, 2-3 different pairs of epistos, as long as you've got a lot of plants, rockwork, and wood.
I was going to say it may depend if you want to have a planted tank or not to help you make your decision.
That's a really good point, because the the Solosite obviously is going to be a non-planted, mostly rock-only tank, where the epistos and all that can be a really nice, elaborately planted tank with rocks and wood and a lot of hardscaping and that kind of stuff. Andrew, thank you very much for the super chat. New to Africans setting up a 60 breeder Tanganyikan community. Can the ventralis and furcifers go together either with Shelley's or Julie's? Yeah, I mean, that's pretty much if you wanted to do a Lake Tanganyikan community, both of those would be more of your open water types of fish, the furcifer rosebas and the ventralis. So they're somewhat similar looking. I think the furcifer rosebas have a little bit more color to them as they get older. If you want to see the full potential of the furcifer rosebas, if you type in Jason's Fish Room, not mine, it was somebody else named Jason, Jason's Fish Room Tour, Primetime Aquatics, I did a fish room tour of Jason's Fish Room, and he had the furcifer rosebas, and you can see it was a rather large male. Now, the furcifers get considerably larger than the ventralis. So if you're looking for something in that 60 breeder where it's like, you know what, I'd like to have more fish, not have it be so cramped, the ventralis might be the better choice for the 60 breeder. But they are outstanding. Both of them are outstanding fish. Oh, this thing just jumped all the way. Janice says Flip Aquatics has 50% off some food and fish. That's a cool deal. It's actually a really good deal. All right, hold on. The thing jumped everywhere once again. This chat, you know, sometimes I just don't understand what is going on here. Okay, hold on. Tout, thank you so much for the number one.
Aww.
Thank you so much. Have you ever mixed Mbuna and Tanganyikan cichlids? Not necessarily on purpose. It can happen. So actually, yes, I have. Right now on the 125, it's a mix of way more than just that. But I do have a few Mbuna, a few leftover peacocks from the old days, and some Brichardi, which are Lake Tanganyikans. Oh, and a transcriptus or two in that tank. It's like I said, it's a mishmash of fish. They're fine, but it's a 125. So I did it once in a 150 where I had some cautopunks in a tank, and there was some peacocks and some Mbuna. It can work, but it's not something I really like to do. I think all the activity tends to stress out the Lake Tanganyikans a little bit because the Mbuna are just a lot more rambunctious. And so if I have a choice, generally speaking, it's not something I love to do. So I think that would probably be my final answers. If I am going to be setting up a tank, it wouldn't be something I would do on purpose. Sometimes it just gets that way. Okay. Hey, you know what?
Oh,
I think it's pretty darn close to time to do the giveaway.
We got hold on a second. Did you see the
Oh wait, hold on a second.
Oh,
Spinster.
okay,
Okay, wait a minute. We've got
it.
15 Sherricks, Cabosis, Dan's Fish. Can you look that up and see if I've kept those? Well, I want to see what they look like because that genus and species, and usually I'm pretty good with those. But if it's something I kept a long time ago, I might not have known that it was that genus and species. I might have known it by a common name, but it's definitely not something I've kept recently. So Joanna's going to look that up because, like I said, that's not one that is ringing a bell for me, at least any time recently. Marine Josh, thank you very much for the super chat. Appreciate it. Main reason is to stop jumpers and slow water evaporation. Yeah, well, if we're talking about lids, 100%. You are absolutely right. Those are the two main reasons for sure.
The glass head stander?
I have not kept the glass head stander. Let me see that fish real fast because...
He looks a little scary. Doesn't he look a little like you wouldn't want to run into him in a dark alley?
Yeah, pretty
How
much
big
looks
do
like...
they get?
Well, I don't know. You're the one that's got the thing right in front of you. No, I have not kept these fish.
How big do they get?
They look like they're on the larger side.
They look like piranha or something.
Yeah. But I have not kept them, so I cannot share with you any useful information. Okay. Now, would it be wise at this point to talk about our giveaway for this evening? Can we do that?
Sure.
And we're going to have a giveaway tonight, and we're going to have a giveaway next week too. So if you don't win tonight, don't worry. There's another chance.
Saturday.
Hold that thought. You're
gonna hold it.
absolutely right. Because all right, hold
Hold
on,
that.
everybody. Here's the deal. If we forget, because we're old people, and sometimes even us combined, we will say, okay, we got to remember this thing.
We don't.
And I'm telling you, even with our brains, we try so hard, and sometimes it just doesn't work.
No.
Like, I'll be like, hey, we got to do this thing. Don't let me forget. And she'll be like, okay, I'm going to remember it, but then you got to remind me to remind you, and we'll forget. So here's what I need. I need you guys to say, you were going to say something before the giveaway if we don't start talking about it right after the giveaway, okay? I do this to my students all the time.
You really? Well, they're young. They remember.
My students,
They know.
I don't think, when first day of class, the people who sit in the front row do not realize that they have a job to do the entire semester. And their job is,
boy.
where did I put my marker? Where did I put the eraser? Where did I put my laser pointer thing? And then if I have to say something about some kind of an assignment, I'm like, hey, I need to talk about something, but I'm going to mention it after I talk about this other thing. Don't let me go on until I've talked about this assignment. And they're really good about it. So now I need you to do that. Don't let me forget to talk about the thing after the giveaway. Okay. And by the way, Michelle said smash the like button. So why don't you... Okay, here we go. Giveaway tonight. Giveaway tonight is sponsored by, that's why I wore this shirt today, Flip Aquatics, flipaquatics.com. They're awesome. And apparently they have a whole bunch of sales on food and fish right now, which is pretty cool.
Cool.
And they like to give you stuff that they have just because they're wonderful people. Now, and by the way, if you haven't checked out their live streams, Coffee with Flip, I highly
love
recommend
those.
it.
They're so
Yep.
fun. It's
They
like-
are,
They should
yeah.
have their own reality show. They're
They
so
should.
fun and funny.
yep. And when you like get to know them, they're actually even funnier in
Yeah,
person.
they're just really nice
I
people.
would, could you imagine what it's like to work there?
No, I would want to go to work.
I know I'd want to go to work as opposed to not wanting to go.
work.
Okay, here we
Correct.
go. So enough of that because you all are waiting. What we're doing today, the giveaway today is the mystery driftwood box. That's right. We're giving away a mystery driftwood box. Yeah, I just thought
So
about
exciting.
this. They actually gave us a mystery driftwood box to show people, and I have no idea where that box is now. Sorry about that, Leather. I forgot about the box you gave us to actually show people. It's a good thing,
Did
though.
I take it? Did I see? I may have sniffed it out and been like, ooh.
Well, you must
and
have,
then
because
I
it
like
isn't where I left it.
incorporated it.
If it was where I left it, I
love
would have
driftwood.
remembered to bring it down here for the for the live stream. But you took it. I blame Joanna. It's her
You
fault.
can-
So anyway,
it sure
this
is.
is what someone's going to win. We love Flip Aquatics, like I said, because
Oh, can you
they
imagine?
sell high quality fish and shrimp, and they minimize the chance that you're going to get sick stuff. So flipaquatics.com, check them out. And I should mention that yes, we're going to have one winner, and they have to live in the continental United States. However, what Flip Aquatics loves to do, again, this is a benefit for everybody. If you go to the description of this live stream, there is a promo code. I've forgotten what it is. That's why I put it in the description. I think it's like PT Driftwood promo or something, or PT Driftwood. Just check out the description of this live stream to get 20% off this bad boy from now until the end of the week. How cool is that? So that is, I think, pretty darn awesome. All right, now what we're going to do here, of course, is we're all going to make sure that we are in all messages or live chat or whatever they. So how come it
All messages.
on one screen? Yeah, but on one screen it says all messages, and then on this screen over here it says live chat. It all means the same
It
thing.
depends if you're on mobile or on a desktop. But their screen won't match anyways. They probably will not match our screen.
Oh yeah, that's true.
Right.
It's not probably not going
So-
to match. So what we're going to do is we are going to take the first person who comes up with the right number between 70 and 80. Feel free to go. The first person who comes up with the right number between 70 and 80. All done. Wow,
Really?
that was super fast.
Oh, wow. That was super
Man.
fast.
You guys don't mess around. Poor Michael, he put in Y, the letter Y.
Aw.
I bet. Oh, Michael.
All right, who you got?
Well, I've got
Yeah.
here. Hold on. We gotta check all of our screens. So,
Yeah.
and it's nice because at least all of our screens they agree with one another, and that's why we do this all these double checks because we want to make sure that all of our screens at least are telling us the same thing. And go ahead and show said number. Number is 77. And the Zen, I don't think the Zen has ever won before.
No.
Zen, how many times have you played? You might be like the Cubs of our live stream.
You might be.
Or the Red Sox.
Oh my
You're like the
gosh.
Cubs or the Red
Right?
Sox of our live stream. And the fact that you've probably played this a billion times. And
Today's your day.
that's pretty awesome.
It's very
So
exciting.
Zen, what you got to do is you have to send us an email to primetimegiveaway,
Singular.
primetimegiveaway at yahoo.com. Send us your actual name, your mailing address, and we will get the Driftwood mystery box out to you. And for everybody else, again, you're still a partial winner because guess what? There's that 20% off discount code.
That's sweet. That would be
And that's
so
pretty
much
awesome.
fun. It's like the beginner plant pack that you don't get to pick. Now, see that the ADHD, OCD in me is like, oh, I want to pick. No, because then you don't have to decide. You just get what you get, and it was so exciting because there were a couple plants that I don't think I would have like gravitated towards, and now I love them.
That is pretty cool.
It's a fun
Now,
story.
before this thing happened.
Okay,
or
so
in
now
the
you
middle-
ready?
Oh, no, I'm not ready. Squibsky, thank you very much for the super chat. I'm glad we caught this like right in the middle of all these numbers
good.
flying around. My 10-gallon crashed from a hydrogen sulfide bubble in my sand. What kind of other substrate can I use with peacock gudgeons in my 10-gallon with tank buds? Tank buds. What's a tank bud?
Maybe there's other fish in there other than the peacock
Oh,
gudgeons.
I got
Get
you.
like fish buds, pals, chums.
Or it could mean that he's got plants that are little buds.
I don't think so. My
Anyway,
guess is no.
It won't matter. So, couple things. I know that this horrible thing has happened, and I'm sorry that happened. I actually do not fear the hydrogen sulfide bubbles. I smell them sometimes. It'll especially happen if I put a gravel vac. This used to happen all the time. In fact, I would put the gravel vac into gravel in my bristlenose pleco breeding tank. And in my infinite wisdom, when I put those fish in there, there was gravel and not sand. Then you start feeding them rapashi and all this stuff. And sure, they eat it, but like, they shred it. And so it winds up in the gravel. That creates a whole lot of organic compounds. There's an anaerobic environment down there. And sure enough, you gravel vac it, you could smell the hydrogen sulfide. However, I never had a problem, even though it would gas off. So I wonder how big of a bubble that was. I mean, I'm sure you smell that, you know, like it's a pretty sudden thing. Like, okay, this smells horrible, and now my fish are in big trouble. So to answer your question. For me, I would still continue with the sand. You can, but with a peacock gudgeon, you can use gravel. It doesn't really interact with the substrate all that much. The only downside is if you're feeding sinking foods and you've got gravel, sometimes it will fall in between the gravel pieces. So if you're feeding a lot of sinking foods, then I really would stay with the sand. But the way to obviously get around having this problem happen again is you can take, if you get a sand with larger grain sizes. So what would be a sand with a larger grain size? Do you know
Well,
off the top
any
of your
of-
head? Most of the Carib
Oh,
Seas, right?
yeah,
with
the Carib
with the
Seas.
exception of that fine white, like that moonlight sand or whatever. That's really, really
That's
fine.
really super fine. But the what am I thinking of? I'm thinking of Jungle River and Peace River, but those are the gravels.
But almost any of them, except for that really fine
What
moon
is
sand.
the one that's right over there? I was just looking at it. It's not completely opaque white.
I don't
We
know what
had
it's
it.
called.
We
Yeah.
had it in this low boy before you redid it.
Well, that was the African cichlid mix in the
Was
low
it?
boy.
Okay.
Yeah, that was actually chunks of stuff. So not the best for, especially if you got Cory cats and stuff in there.
What
But
tank am I thinking of that had that?
I don't know. But what's the other one? The Imaginarium brand, just a black sand, because I think we can gravel vac that as well, right?
Yeah, whatever brand they've switched to, they
Yeah, a
changed
lot
it.
of
It used to
the
be Top
Petco
Fin.
PetSmarts,
but-
as long as it's not a very fine grain, you can gravel vac that, and that's a way around it. So if you did that, I know you got plants in the tank, but as long as you just kind of are gentle around, especially where you think roots are going to be for like your crypts and your swords, you can go gently in there, and it will kind of mix things up, and you won't get that. So it might not necessarily be necessary, about switching the substrate, but maybe just agitating it more often so that it won't build up.
The Red Flint brand sand
Red Flint
is a nice
although
size.
I haven't. Yeah, it is a nice
It's-
size. So I think
Yeah,
that would probably be gravel vacuable,
sure. You
right?
can get really close to it, and it's
Okay.
not gonna.
Yeah, because I actually, when I've only done maintenance on these tanks once, and I think it's always been Luke, and then when Luke stopped doing it, it was Eli started doing it. He now takes care of the entire fish room and the gallery, but I don't remember if I took the gravel back into the sand at all. I don't think I did. I think I just did a water change.
The thing. We gotta talk about the thing.
We
thing.
need to talk about the thing. Okay, so what are we talking about?
Saturday.
Saturday. Oh yeah. Okay, go ahead. Share your thing that you're doing.
Finally, we're gonna have a live stream under the small scape this Saturday, 10 a.m. Central, and I'm gonna have giveaways to celebrate 50K.
And the giveaways are going to be plural, right?
Yes.
So it's going to be an hour long. So you said 10 a.m. Central
Yeah.
Standard Time,
10 to 11.
10 to 11. It's 1 hour. You're celebrating 50.
Yeah.
50,000.
Yeah.
And we've got at least how many giveaways?
At least 4.
4?
Yeah.
So that's like a giveaway
Like every 15 minutes.
it's like $1 an hour. So yeah, that'll be pretty cool. So if you're into that sort of thing and you happen to be up on Saturday and
Yeah.
you're like, man, I sure don't have much to do. Wish there was a live stream. Then don't come here. Go to the small scape. So go to the small scape.
Get your coffee.
There. We will do
Join in.
a party, a 50,000 party,
Yes.
and a whole mess load of giveaways. So if you didn't win tonight, you're like, I'm very sad about that. Well,
Well,
here is a better way with a lot more giveaways. Okay,
that
You-
was the thing.
thank you so much for becoming a prime timer. Really appreciate you being here. Hope you enjoy it. Thank you.
Oh, there's a new. Oh, you just did the new member?
I just
You?
did. You?
Okay,
Yeah.
good. Thank you. I'm always reading second floor.
Yes, Margaret.
You're so
It's
good.
10 a.m. Central Standard Time,
Yes.
11 a.m. Eastern Time, and then don't ask me to go backwards because I always struggle with that.
I'll mess it up.
For some reason, as a kid, I always thought from Illinois to California that there was a 3-hour time difference. I don't think it is. I think it's only 2, isn't
It
it?
depends on the time of year.
I don't know. I know.
Yeah,
the
because
West Coast
sometimes
time,
when I would go to Arizona.
Mountain time, I get all messed up.
Yeah.
I'm just bad at it, but I know the rest. Really, Patricia? Thank you so much. Just bought a pink Prime Time Aquatics T-shirt.
Aw,
That's very cool. Yeah, we have some very limited.
fun.
Cat says 8
Oh,
a.m.
yeah.
Pacific. Thank you.
Oh,
So
all
it
right
is
then.
2 hours. Okay. Yep. Very nice. No, yeah, 2 hours no matter the time of year. Get it right.
Really?
Unless maybe if it's Arizona, because Arizona.
No,
I don't-
Arizona.
Well, okay, but
I
when we think West Coast,
I could have sworn.
no, Arizona doesn't change it. So you're right on Arizona.
Okay.
There could be a difference, but not in California.
No.
And
I can't
HB
vouch for
says
that.
9 a.m. Mountain Time. I like how
Yup.
we're representing. Anybody want to throw in their time from maybe across the
UK?
pond or Antarctica?
Right?
What time is it going to be in Antarctica? Ooh.
That's it.
So does it? So on the poles, I never actually pondered this, but if you were in this little sliver,
Mhm.
would it be the same time as here? Like the time zones are
You would
probably
think.
they're shifting a lot faster than in the middle of the Earth, right? I think. Okay, enough of that.
Thank
I
you,
just-
second floor.
I'm pretty sure I just hurt my brain thinking about that, and now we all have to consider it. Really, no time zone changes. Oh, so how? Yeah, that would be even more messed up because the sun doesn't often go completely down or completely up. Oh, no daylight savings, I meant. Okay. Yeah, it's got to be very, very tricky in those parts of the world. Snail says I better set an alarm. I might be tuning in from a dog walk.
All
Love
right.
it.
Yep.
Very cool. All right, and so by the way, if you had questions, now would be a great time to re-ask those because once the chat got buried with all the numbers that got put in,
They gone.
it's really easy to lose all that stuff. Meyer Doc says, stab the substrate with a skewer or chopstick occasionally if you're really concerned about hydrogen sulfide and if it's too fine to heavily vacuum. Yeah. I remember that with that bristlenose tank. Never again. I learned. Hey, don't start a breeding project in a tank with gravel when you have a bunch of bottom feeding fish that are going to make a mess and make it very difficult. Oh, the detritus worms that were in that tank used to actually clog up the gravel vac. Remember that?
No.
So, well, the boys would, because you'd have to stick the gravel vac in there.
And which tank was that?
It was in the bottom right 20.
Mm.
We have our own language. So if I ever say something like, oh, it's in the left right 20 or the right left 20 or the right 20, we know where we're going. Bottom right 40, upper left 20. We just know where all that stuff is. It's actually kind of a disease. But bottom right 20, you'd stick the gravel vac in the gravel, and we had these pink detritus worms. And I'm not just talking about a few. You'd stick that in there, and they would come out as a big clump. And then it would clog up the gravel vac, and you have to take the gravel vac out, put your hand on it, shake it, and then shake it into a bucket, and then they
That's
would all
gross.
come out. Yes, it was.
I don't need to hear about that.
I know. Well, that's why I moved the Bristol's breeding tank to eventually a tank with sand, because it was gross, for sure.
Oh.
Richard says, recommend carob sea sand. Yeah, carob sea sand is good stuff. I like it quite a bit. Lots and lots and lots of different types, that's for sure. I don't like any sand that's a really, really, really fine grain. And carob sea, like I said, I don't remember, don't quote me on this. I thought it was the moonlight sand, maybe somebody else who knows the different types better than I do. But there was one that was really fine. And actually, I think it was probably better suited for saltwater than fresh. But it was worse than our pool filter sand that we bought, where you couldn't get a gravel vac anywhere near that stuff. It would suck up right away. Scott wants to know, what's a good way to keep my cats from knocking my lids into my 55-gallon? That is not a problem I've ever had. Well, I mean, I had cats growing up, but I don't know if I ever had a problem with them jumping on any of my fish tanks that I can remember.
Well, that would be probably a lid that's made for the actual tank that like sits kind of in, you know what I mean? That's like nestled in. That's not easy to knock.
Well, I'm
it
sure
off.
it is, right? I would assume that's just a standard 55-gallon lid.
Unless
And
it's
maybe
DIY.
because it has a center brace, but some of those lids don't always go all the way to the black rim.
True.
They are to a point where it's like if they're situated perfectly, they'll remain. You slide it over one way or the other, and the whole thing's just going to fall right in.
How about
I
Can
bet. Here's the thing.
bubble wrap on top
I wonder if the foil trick would work.
or foil?
So we
yeah.
use for our couch, because every once in a while a dog likes to sneak up on the couch, especially at night. We put tinfoil over the surface of the couch, and they don't like that. They really, really don't like that noise. I wonder if it would work. Although you can't do that. You
No.
block the light.
Right.
I mean, if the tanks are off, maybe, but not while they're on. So scratch that. That's not a good idea. I don't know. Unless you you jump on there, lid falls in, the cat falls in the water too, and that's the end of that.
Second floor, lose the cats. Just
Yeah.
kidding.
I was
But
thinking about
Yeah, they suggest the same thing, foil.
Yeah. So I was thinking about, you swallowed a fly, and then you swallow a spider to eat the fly. You get yourself a big dog and put it on top of the tank. You eat the cat.
Get yourself a
No.
dog and put it on top of
Now
the
I've
tank.
got the
There's
dog
your
on top of the
suggestion.
tank. You buy a horse to eat the dog. Yeah, we could just, next thing you know, I got a rhino on top of this tank.
You know, that would be a really good, it's a good situation for a solution that you usually propose to people.
What's that?
You wouldn't believe how many times I hear him, like at swaps, suggesting this. This is what you need to do. This is what you got to do. Stack them. Go vertical. You're always like, you got to go
tanks?
vertical. You got to put a tank on top of that 55. Then
There
the
you go.
cat won't jump on it.
Yeah,
There you go.
that is a great solution. That is a great solution. Cecil says, my dogs sleep in the bed with me. Oh, heck no, man. I learned that lesson when I was I've had dogs now. The minute I moved out and got my own place, I had dogs. I've had dogs my whole adult life. And I learned after the first set of dogs, never, ever am I letting the dogs sleep in my bed. For one, I don't like dog hair like in my bed. Two, the dogs take up more space. And
You
they don't
wind up getting like all
sleep well.
smushed and stuff. Yeah,
Like
they're
dogs
always moving.
do not
Yeah.
actually, and our dogs are crazy. Now, this is nuts. Does anybody else's dog do this? I know this is a fish live stream. One thing about dogs, and we're moving back to fish. Our American Bulldog sleeps downstairs, our bedroom's upstairs. He sleeps in the living room, and from our room upstairs, And this is every single night. This is not just a random thing. This is every night, and it's in the mornings. He sleeps so solidly at times. He has dog dreams. He is always like barking and howling, and he's running his legs. But it's every single night. And I mean, it'll be 1 o'clock in the morning.
Really loud.
Like, what the heck is he always dreaming? Yeah. Every day. Does anybody else's dog do that? Cecil says, my dogs don't shed. That is awesome.
That's what you
That's
need.
very cool.
Yeah.
So I want to know, anybody else's dogs do that? But they do it like every single day. I didn't realize, that's the only dogs I've ever had that do that. Like, you'll have dogs that snore or something like that. This dog's having dreams. He's letting everybody know about it.
Yeah. I wonder what he's doing.
Mo Pro says, it's definitely the Carib Sea Moonlight Sand. I have it in my 75 gallon. Super fine and very difficult to vacuum.
It is very difficult.
So I'm not
yeah.
crazy. I thought I remembered that somewhere
It's a
in my
beautiful
brain.
sand, though.
It's a great look, especially when it's new.
Yeah.
And then if you get some fish stuff on it, then it can be a challenge, a little bit of a challenge.
A little bit.
Ooh, second floor. For the cat situation, put strips of duct tape sticky side up on top. They'll hate that. Oh, that's a...
Yeah, that's
I
good.
bet they would. Plus, you wouldn't have to brush them as much because half the cat hair will be stuck to the tape.
Win-win.
Yeah. There you go. Jacob says, no lid for one night. Let the cat jump up there. Cat goes for a swim. Be like, oh, yeah, I'm done. Yeah, that was a bad idea.
How'd you like that, Fluffy? Oh,
Okay.
Lynn says, how do I keep the Great Dane nose prints off my tanks? That's right. You've got
Yeah,
the
good
Great
luck.
Danes. Oh, boy.
That's not going to... It's funny because
They're
sometimes...
so cute.
Like I said, we have the two dogs, the American Bulldog and then a Bulldog that is English, half Boston.
Mhm.
And they want to come down here sometimes. And so I'm like, all right, fine. But they literally come down here. They walk around for 2 seconds, and then they walk right back up the stairs, and they're sitting there staring at me like, okay, we're done. We want to go back up. We want to go back upstairs. I don't know if it's just it's hot down here. They're
no.
bored. There is no real carpet or anything down
Yeah,
here
they're
other
like,
than
this
just
is
the
not what we
sound
thought it
deadening
was
stuff.
going to be.
And every single time they're so excited to get down here. They run down here. They look around for 2 seconds. Like, okay, I don't want to be down here anymore. I want to go back upstairs.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you guys are stupid sometimes. Ooh, Peter Parker. Angelfish, black skirt tetras, bristle nose, and a dwarf gourami in a 75 gallon. How many can I keep of each? So safely with the angelfish, 1. You might get 2, and you might wind up with a pair, and then they become a little bit territorial, which is not ideal. You wind up with 2 male. Sometimes they fight. 2 females might work, but I always just say with the angelfish, 1 is always safe. Black skirt tetras in a 75 gallon, a dozen. Bristle nose, you could go 2 or 3. Dwarf gourami, just 1. So that's kind of how I would do that. And I know I'm a little low on the black skirt tetras. Usually I recommend much bigger groups, but black skirt tetras get big. So a 75 gallon is perfectly appropriate, but black skirt tetras, I don't think a lot of people realize that you can have close to a 3-inch black skirt tetra, 2.5, 3 inches. So that's why I said a dozen would be good. Make sure your angelfish is not a veil tail. Otherwise they might fin nip the angelfish. But it's a combo that can work. I've had that combo before. It worked just fine.
Oh, Rachel says, I came to YouTube yesterday to look up a video on what to do if a fish has ick. Found your video extremely informative and helpful. I was up until 2 a.m. watching many other videos of yours.
Well, thank you very much. The binge
Oh
watch.
boy,
I
the
love it.
binge
Thank
watch.
you. Really appreciate it. Yeah, I was dealing with that in a tank recently, and I used my own advice, and it goes
Did
away
you
pretty fast. If you,
Up a video.
I looked up a video, and Primetime Aquatics came out. I'm like, I'm going to follow that, and you can nip it in the butt pretty quick. Nip it in the butt? Nip it in the butt? What is that? It's getting late. Let's see here.
Wait.
Girl 88 says
Oh, that's what
frittatas
I was
or
gonna
green neons together. What say you?
I say yay.
I said, I think that'd be an outstanding
They'd be
combination.
beautiful.
Your green neons are going to have that greenish blue, and the fricattas are going to have some blue, the blue eyes, the beautiful yellow fins. We have some
Yummy.
of the blue eye red rainbows that we recently got. Oh my gosh, their colors just popping. They look so
they're
good.
so pretty.
Yep. We might have to keep a group back. Kyler says, what would y'all suggest for a multi-species breeder tank looking at nanofish but going big in a 75-gallon? All right, so we're not talking about multi-shell dwellers. We're talking about breeding multiple fish in the same tank. I think that's what we're talking about, right? Okay,
I think so.
I'm going to assume that. 75-gallon. What would I do? Usually a great combination, it's not fish, but shrimp and snails work really, really well together. You could do bristlenose plecos, and I have done bristlenose plecos and shrimp, but not all people have success with that. I've had okay success with it. The other thing I was thinking is, what if you did bristlenose plecos? And I'm not talking about the standards. Don't do the standards because you can't, they're hard to get rid of. You could do bristlenose, some of the nicer ones, like the long fins, the reds, the green dragons, something like that, or the lemon drops are really pretty, especially the blue eye lemon drop. Long fins are absolutely gorgeous. But you could do those and then also breed something like a fleur-de-lis killifish.
Yeah.
Or endlers. Because they're so small, I don't think that they would eat the bristlenose babies. And bristlenose leave other fish alone, so it doesn't matter. You could, I mean, I suppose you could do the same thing with, not the fleur-de-lis killies, but shrimp. Would I try to breed shrimp with any fish types? Nothing that's going to be easy because everything else is going to be an egg scatter. And now you're removing fish with the moss and all that stuff, and shrimp. So those would be the ones that come to mind at first. Obviously, the other option is you do some type of cichlid, and you get some different looking ones. So in a 75-gallon, you could do a male and let's say, I don't know, 4 females of an Mbuna cichlid, and then make sure that your Mbuna cichlids are very, very different. So maybe it's a Psiloci and a Rusty. Generally speaking, I seriously doubt they're going to hybridize. Mine never did. My Mbunas never hybridized, period, in the tanks that I had. So Shirley says, so no bristlenose and shrimp. Again, I did it, and I didn't have that many issues, but some people do. And you could certainly keep them together. That has never been an issue for me. In fact, I've got bristlenose in our shrimp breeding tank. That's never been a problem. But sometimes people will say they have issues breeding them simultaneously in the same tank.
Jay Williams says, picked up a 36-gallon bow front, going to plant it. Any stocking suggestions?
Wait, say that one more time.
A 36-gallon bow front.
Yeah.
Going to plant it. Any
Nice.
stocking suggestions?
Oh my gosh, it's a great tank. It's a nice size. It's a nice longer type of a tank, decently tall. Stocking suggestions. The first thing that comes to my mind is Empire gudgeons. I think that would be pretty awesome. You could do Empire gudgeons with some of the, not the super small rainbows, but the furcatas, the thread fins would work just fine. That might be nice, a big group of those. The Empire gudgeons will stay near the ground, near the bottom of the tank, which I think would be pretty cool. Check out the marble hatchet fish. I don't think they get enough love, and I think they should. Now that'd be a really nice top fish. Or you could do some of the half beaks, which again is another fish that doesn't get nearly enough attention, and some of the half beaks are very, very, very pretty.
They are.
I would do at least one bristlenose. Again, I am a big fan of the super reds or the lemon drops, long or short fin, whichever ones you prefer. Cory cats, I think, is a must. You know, at least, I mean, in a 36 bow front, you could pick your 2 favorites. Maybe some Adolphi Cories or Venezuelas, do a half a dozen of each.
What about like cherry tetras?
Red cherry tetras would be very cool as a schooling fish. Yep. Hard to find though.
Yeah.
So if you can't find the cherries, and you want that kind of a shape, the lemon tetra would be another option. It's obviously yellow instead of reddish orange, but that's a really, really good one. So yeah, I think those are all options. Shirley says, cherry tetras with Amano shrimp, ? Yeah, as long as the Amano shrimp are close to full grown or the cherry tetras are small, I think they would be okay together. Because Amano shrimp are big. They get quite large, much larger than your typical Neocaridina shrimp that we keep. And he says, are you coming to the Quad City? Absolutely. Myself and my sister-in-law will be at the Quad City. Joanna and Eli are headed to GCCA. And like I said, so that's the 23rd. So look, Monday, Tuesday, we should have the website updated. We don't have big quantities. We have a lot of different types of fish, but I cut back because we're actually, believe it or not, after this swap, we're getting closer to the end of swap season. So if you see something on the website, it is definitely one of those things, jump on it when it comes out, because we don't have the typical hundreds of any one type of fish. There might only be a few dozen of each type of fish.
Rachel asked, what do you mean by the regular pleco is hard to get rid of?
Oh, regular plecos. Okay, hold on. Regular bristlenose. So I should have said standard, not regular. The standard bristlenose pleco, just the brown ones, they breed so readily that most pet stores, people are like, that's like $1, $2 fish. The super reds, the lemon drops, the green dragons, the long fins, more desirable, more people want them, not as many on the market. If I'm talking about like the regular pleco that gets 24 inches, they're impossible. Good luck. I mean, people get those things, they throw them in a 55 gallon, they get to be 2 feet long. Pet stores do not want them because they know most people can't house them and don't want them either, and it takes up an entire tank. But that's what I meant. I meant the standard bristlenose, not regular plecos, because regular plecos, yeah, I would never breed those in a million years. And if I saw them breeding, that's one fish where I'd be like, okay, where's my cichlid tank? Let me get all these babies out of here, put them in a tank where I know that they will be fish food, because what am I going to do with a bunch of standard plecos that are going to get 2 feet long? Not good. Not good.
Mary Oliver says, trying to get used to quiet nights and no backdoor greets. Just lost my bully boy last Monday.
I'm sorry. I'm really sorry to hear that. That's
hard.
Been through that many, many times. It is never easy. I don't care how many times you've had a dog and lost a dog. Every single time, that is horrible. It's losing a family member. So I'm really, really sorry that happened.
Yeah.
That's tough. It is very tough.
And maybe sometime in your future you'll find another moment to find a new friend.
Yeah, maybe.
You never know.
Sandra says, I have corridors, bristlenose plecos, mystery snails breeding in both my 55 and 75, limia in one tank, croaking gourami and platy in another. Lots of babies all the time. That's cool. Yeah, those are a bunch of fish that are pretty awesome. The other one you could possibly, I think bristlenose and guppies, or endlers, I think would be good. Even the guppies I might not trust around bristlenose babies, but that's,
really? Wow.
That's pretty cool. I like it. I like it. Mr. Skip says, I have a 60, basically a tall 55. Yep, I've had one before. I'm thinking of doing a planted community tank with driftwood. First planted. Should I start smaller? Am I biting off too much at once? You have opinions?
I was reading what? I have 60 boats. First plant, should I start smaller? Should I start smaller than a 55?
Yeah. Or a 60. I would say no. I think whatever you do in a 55, it's going to be just as, you're not going to spend as much money in a smaller tank. So if something goes wrong, I guess you're not out as much. So if you make a mistake in a 20 gallon, like, oh, this isn't working, or my water parameters are horrible, you don't lose as many plants. However, there's no special additional care requirements. So if you get the lighting right, and if you're using fertilizers, that's all correct, there's no additional work to be done.
No, and if you use something, the first plant that comes to mind, I don't know if you're thinking about it, like which plants you're going to use, but like Val, that would be really nice in a tank like that. And it's pretty, don't plant it too deep, Yeah. That would be relatively simple as long as it likes your water and all that. But you can keep like plant choices very simple. Try something like Val, and it's relatively inexpensive as well. And it could be really striking just because something is very simple and you're only picking one. It can be very striking. Yeah.
And keep in mind too, you don't have to plant the entire tank as soon as you begin, right? You said you're gonna have driftwood. So you attach a nubius to driftwood. You just take some super glue. Joanna's done videos on it on her channel, where you just glue a bunch of anubias to driftwood. It doesn't require high light. It requires very little, if not any, fertilization, especially if you've got an average stock tank. Most of your fish are going to provide the nutrients it needs. And it's a really easy plant just to kind of set it and forget it. You're not trimming it back. It's not going to overgrow your tank usually. Crypts are another really good one if you want to plant something in the substrate, but just get a couple and then know that, okay, I've got some space here if I want to add some more later.
And it can be fun to, what, what I call underplant. It may be, some may consider it underwhelming when you first start it, but I think it's really fun. It's like growing plants in the garden from seed.
Yeah.
It's fun to watch it, mature.
Absolutely. Mark says, any tips on German blue rams? I want to get a pair for a 29-gallon with a few black neon tetras. That's it's a wonderful combination. It will definitely work.
Nice.
The one thing about German blue rams is keep them warm. So a lot of people make the mistake with the German blues is they think, okay, well, I've got a tank and every source tells me 78 degrees or so, 76 to maybe 80 is great for just most tropical fish, and that's true, but not for the German blue rams. For German blue rams, you want to go 83, 84, and the black neons will be fine at that temperature, but just, again, know that is a fish that loves to be warm. They do like softer water with a pH that is neutral or less. So for us, we just have a whole bunch of issues. I don't do the German blue rams because you got to keep them warm. So I got to really think about the fish that I'm going to put in that tank. And then our water is pH of 8 and it's on the harder side. So they've always struggled for us. But if your water parameters are closer to what they would prefer, it's a gorgeous fish. I mean, right now we got the Bolivian rams here, which they don't need the hot water or the warm water as much, just typical tropical fish water, and they don't need the softer water with a lower pH. So they do really well in Chicago water, which is kind of nice.
Carrie says, I've been quietly watching here. I just wanted to say thank you to you and eventually Lisa because of you too. My wife has taken an interest in our aquariums.
Very cool.
How very
That's
nice.
good to hear.
You just gotta rope them into the hobby because it's a great hobby.
Yep.
That's nice.
Patricia says, I got a surprise the other day when my angelfish laid eggs on a leaf in my 75-gallon. That is cool. Very
That's
nice.
Awesome. Baby angels.
Baby
are
angels.
So cute.
They are very cute little fish. Yep. Ooh, this might be one that you know. Kamerica says, what is a decent price for a Nubius cophifolia? I have no idea.
I've kept it a couple times. I really wish I knew, where did I get it from? Probably a swap. Generally speaking, I think like somewhere around the ballpark of like $10.
That's exactly what I was going to say. That is exactly what I was going to say.
Now, in the tissue cultures at like the big box Petco, PetSmart, I can't recall if they had that.
You can get those in tissue culture? Or are you talking about the tube plants?
No, I'm talking about tissue cultures because you can get a lot of the Anubias. If you ever do get the tissue cultures, you have to be really careful when you get Anubias. Look up whatever kind they say is in there because I've found Gigantea in the super tinies, and you need to look that up because it gets very large. It might surprise you. You're like, oh, it's so cute. Not like in 6 months it's not going to be. But yeah, give or take 10 depending on the source.
And somebody said $12.99.
$12.99.
That's pretty close. Lloyd says, good evening. Good evening, Lloyd. I'm struggling with a trumpet snail infestation. What is recommended to eradicate them? Okay, trumpet snails, everybody's best friend. So of all the snails, they are definitely the most invasive of every single snail type that you could possibly get. There's a couple things you can do. And so option one, let's pretend that you have sand and it's not a planted tank. So I get these things like crazy. And when I had the bristlenose breeding tank, I could take a net. I could literally just scoop through the sand, lift the net out of the sand. All the sand would fall through the net, and I would be left with so many trumpet snails that when I lifted the net out of the water, it would like sag. So that was just a maintenance thing for me. I just go in there and keep scooping them out, and they were always going to be there, and they're still there, but they're not in very high numbers. Thing number two, you could get some assassin snails. Now, understand what you're most likely going to be doing long term is trading your Malaysian trumpet snails for assassin snails. I don't mind that because one, assassin snails look cool because they're brown. They got like the little yellow swirlies. And two, they mostly are going to not be found unless it's time to eat because usually they burrow and they don't come out like once they sense there's food, they'll come out, eat, especially if there's food on the ground, but then they just go right back in. You very rarely see them. And really, if you have a reasonable amount of Malaysian trumpet snails and sand, you don't see them all that often either, but I get it. They can still be a real mess.
There are snail traps though. The Sarah
Yes.
snail trap can be found again.
If you type in Sierra as Sera, so Sierra snail trap or snail trap primetime aquatics. I did a video years ago with this thing, and I have one upstairs that I need to update that video, but I don't have a tank with enough snails to really have the shock and awe factor like I did in that video. So I put this thing. They give you a little wafer, and you put it in the middle of the snail trap, and it has these things that kind of dangle down like these little pins, and snails can get in, but they can't get back out. When I took that, I had a tank that was just covered. I think it was the bow front tank here, a 23-gallon bow front. When I showed that thing in that video, it was jam-packed full of snails. The thing was absolutely full, and people were like, "You did that. You just put all those snails in there." I'm like, "Yeah, okay. What am I going to do? Pick all these snails up one by one all over my fish room and stick them in this stupid
Then you
box
wouldn't
and
have
then set them
needed the
back
trap.
in there?" Yeah, like it would have taken me like 7 weeks to do
Oh
that.
my
But anyway,
gosh.
it's a really good, it's the best snail trap I've ever seen. You could take things like cucumber pieces and chuck them in there and wait till they attach and just pull out that piece of food too.
Yeah.
But that Sierra snail trap is by far the best one I've ever seen.
Either that or get light colored substrate.
What, then they blend a little bit more?
Yes.
What fish could eat snails? So it's another great question, Gabrielle. And the Malaysian trumpet snails, for the most part, we don't make any effort to eradicate them in any of our tanks. So if they don't exist in a certain tank, it's because we have fish in that tank that at one point ate them, especially in our quarantine tanks. So I have found almost all African cichlids will eat snails. Definitely Mbuna, definitely the peacock cichlids. Our shell dwellers, over time, because there was so much food competition, they figured out how to eat. Remember how many pond snails and Malaysian trumpet snails I had in that lowboy? They're none. They're all gone. A lot of larger South and Central American cichlids will eat them. Ballast sharks, tinfoil barbs, silver dollars, I have noticed will eat them. A lot of your loaches, but with the Malaysian trumpet snails, sometimes they struggle a little bit to eat them. So you're like your clown loaches, dwarf chain loach on the smaller side are two pretty good ones. So yeah, they are all potential snail eaters as well. Vince says darters will seem to eat the smaller snails. Pea puffers are a good one as well.
That's
Yeah,
right.
I definitely agree with the darters or some of the gobies. Like we have the yellow striped gobies in there, and those are very aggressive eaters. Same with the rhinogobius that we had. They would eat snails. You'd see them kind of just picking them up, carrying them around, and doing a number on them. So they were actually pretty entertaining.
They had their little buffet plates.
They did. Yep. David says, any tips on handling an aggressive male live bear? He gets nippy with other tank mates once he impregnates the female. It depends on the live bear. So it's a little bit easier to handle guppies and endlers, but when you get into the sword tails and the mollies, sometimes you got to just remove that male because they can be problematic at times. Tim, thank you so much for becoming a brand new prime timer. Really appreciate it. Thank you for being here. Hope you enjoy it. And Tony B, really appreciate the super chat. Will peacock gudgeons and Bosemani rainbow fish make good tank mates? Absolutely. Yep, that would be one I would not hesitate to do. I've got peacock gudgeons in the fish room right now. That'll be at the swaps. We've got rainbows all over these tanks here. I wouldn't hesitate to put them together. The only concern really is how fast the Bosemani rainbows are going to eat relative to the peacock gudgeons. And so what I would do, if I had that combo, is I would feed flake foods, distract my Bosemani rainbows with the flake foods, and then I would start dropping in some pellets for the peacock gudgeons so everybody gets enough food. But I think it would work just fine.
Oh, look at that. Charles Vaughn is here.
What's up?
Hello, Charles.
How you doing?
How you doing? Oh, Richard wants to know, is a pea puffer in a community a crazy idea?
Not necessarily. It just depends on what's in that tank. Nothing long finned, I would say, because pea puffers sometimes just like the... I made a big mistake when I was quarantining fish. I had 8 of these plecos that I spent all kinds of money on. They're small right now, but they're going to get huge. But they had these long, it's a lyre-tailed pleco. Like, where am I going to put these things? So I chucked them in the 20 long, or I'm sorry, the 12 long, and that was where I was quarantining the pea puffers. And immediately the pea puffers are like, And we just swam on over there. You know how they do. They weren't super fast. They're like
Little
looking at 'em, like-
helicopters.
and they're looking, and they're just kind of doing this, right? And they're just kind of looking at these waving lyre-tailed plecos. And I'm like, what am I,
no.
an idiot? So I threw 2 of the plecos, and I'm like, I gotta get those out right away. That's not gonna work. So pea puffers, yep, you can do it. But then again, be aware that you're still feeding snails. If you're eating live baby, if they're eating live baby brine, you're feeding that out. Sometimes that will also have to compete for the fish food. All right, everybody, what do you think? I think it is time.
Already?
It is
Oh,
time
wow.
already. We got to call it a night. And girl, yeah, frittatas and green rainbows will work
All day.
magnificently for sure.
All day.
Yeah, we're gonna call it a night, but we're gonna be back. We're gonna be back same time,
Saturday.
same place. Oh, we're gonna be back Saturday on the small scape, 10 a.m. Central Standard Time. Tons of giveaways Saturday, and then back here next Thursday, same time, same place. Thank you for all the new members and super chats and our
Yes.
moderators for doing such an awesome job and all the great questions.
Yeah.
Thank you once again for being here, hanging out with us. We will be back same time, same place next week. Y'all have a great week.
Happy Valentine's Day.
That too. Bye-bye.